The new state investment bank, as I understand it, is going to challenge funds through the existing banks that showed that they really didn't have much understanding of business. So I'm wondering, are you optimistic that that sort of model is going to work?
Yeah, so this state investment bank has this money. It's from the National Pension Reserve Fund and also from in particular the German, and underwritten by the German investment bank, KfW. And KfW also works on this model where it doesn't lend directly to businesses, but it lends to the banks, to the retail banks in Germany that then lend to businesses. It has obvious, dangers in Ireland in the sense that, German retail banks have a lot of experience lending to businesses and so on. But having, yes, those dangers are there. I actually think that it has the potential to be more far-reaching by working through the retail banks. Only if, that is really understood that if the private banking side of it isn't just fetishized and said, well, of course, if we hand it over to the private banks, they will know what to do. And in a sense, there's a historic moment here where most people recognize that the retail banks don't really know, or certainly for a certain period of time didn't know what to do. So that you are trying to build up a capacity within those banks. And I think this is a vehicle to do that, but I think, we would need to make that really part of the project. That it's not just a matter of, we have 6 billion there that we can do off balance sheet and channel into the economy, and retail banks will know what to do. But the other part of that project is we are actually building up the capacity of and changing the organizational culture of the retail banks to deliver into the economy, so that if you come 10, 15 years after the bubble burst, you should be able to look at those banks, whether they're private or public, and say, these are banks who can actually, be part of this project of developing a real domestic economy and a real exporting domestic sector.
I wanted to ask what you think about the cooperative sector and how we could actually develop that, because it's great talking about enterprise and lending to enterprises, but there seems to be a lot of potential for cooperatives.
It's a very important point that, in a sense, we need to think about what's the diversity of firms and enterprises that you can have in the economy. So we've kind of, for understandable reasons, we kind of have one idea of the desirable kind of company that we would get, and that's the high-tech company that will pull in venture capital and get some seed funding to get going and so on. But actually, there's a lot more, many different versions of companies. Even at the most basic level, you might have an engineering company which will employ 100 people in 20 years' time, but needs the patient financing over 10 years, not the venture financing over 3 years. So I think you can kind of extend that logic and say, we really need to probably trawl through the system, and I'm not an expert on company law or anything like that, but look at what are are there obstacles there to forming, different kinds of, organizations. And cooperatives certainly seems like one, because we have very, very small companies, and very, very small enterprises, and even small farms. So, scaling up, but so probably Irish organizations need to scale up and get a little bigger, but having said that, it doesn't always have to be through just getting taken over by a mega company, and cooperatives will be very attractive.
Is there any debate going on anywhere on this issue of this pay path, and what the Department of Social Protection have given the contract to 2 companies where they split the whole of Ireland into 2?
I know that there is a huge amount of concern about it, and I think it kind of has at 2 levels. One is, what the model is going to be, and the other is the opportunity that is missed. And so the model can really only be about processing people out of the welfare system into, in most cases, into a labour market where there are huge problems, 0 hours, all these kinds of things. So I know there's an attempt to build in a certain amount of, safeguards against that within the contracts, but I have to say I wouldn't have a huge amount of faith that they would, make any difference. Like I say, it hasn't really worked in the UK. I don't see why it would work here in a worse situation. The other thing is I think there's a huge missed opportunity because we have a huge problem of jobless households and households with very low levels of work within the household, rural and urban, and NESC has a very good report on that. And what is the point of contact between people in those households and the labour market? It's really this labour market policy and where people meet the employment agency and so on. And the problems in those households are extremely complicated, and a lot of them are very practical, just childcare. Yes, okay, you have the skills, but who's going to look after the 2 kids at home, etc., etc. When the subsidy doesn't cover the cost and all the rest of it. And so there's an opportunity missed there as well, which is this should be a chance to bridge together the local employment support and welfare and work system with the local enterprise offices and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that is the kind of interaction that we need to have happening to tackle these difficulties all over the country. And you're definitely not going to get that with people ringing into call centres, reporting on whether they went for work or went for their training or whatever it was. So I completely agree with you, and I agree that there isn't really a huge amount of debate about if the thing has been pushed under. I think there was one other thing, which was just that I think the department didn't have a huge amount of, I suppose the FOSS disaster basically put them in a position where they couldn't be seen to be saying, well, we're going to deliver anything new through FOSS. But at some level, this is something that really should be done. It's a public investment, it's a public good.